And so you went home February 25th or so.
Yep.
And you shared a fun little snippet about how you told your daughter about your leg. Can you share that again with the listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. It was the funniest thing because she didn't honestly notice. I'd ask my wife, like, all right, how long before do you think she's going to say something? And I was super concerned on what is her thought going to be. Am I going to be scary all of a sudden? Is she not going to want to snuggle with me anymore? What does not having a leg mean for how she's going to react to me?
Mm-hmm.
But it was getting painful because she wasn't noticing it. She was just happy that mom and dad were home. She was living her life. And I finally had to be like, hey,
guys,
yeah. I mean, she was across the room just playing and I was sitting on the couch. So I was like, finally, okay, all right, I can't take this anymore. Hey, Adeline, you want to see who can stand on one leg the longest? So I stood up and she stood up and actually was getting ready to stand on one leg. And all of a sudden just goes, Dad, where's your foot? And it's like, we had to cut it off because it was sick. And she came up and she walks and stands right underneath where my leg would be. And she's looking up like, okay, yep, this is weird. And then she sees my phone in my walker and just goes, Daddy, can I look at pictures on your phone? And
then that was it. Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
Just hasn't looked back from then.
You were still daddy. So it didn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, she saw a picture at my in-law's house. I think it was my brother-in-law was in a picture with two legs, obviously. And she goes, oh, is that Dad? And they're like, no, that's Sean. And she goes, oh, yeah, that can't be Dad. That man has two legs. So she doesn't even really remember me with two legs anymore. She just knows that Dad has
it's just the way
one
it
leg.
is.
Okay. Because she's 3 at this point. About?
No, so she's, yeah. So yeah, I guess when it was taken off, yep, she was 3.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Wow, that's cute. So prosthetic, did you get a prosthetic?
Yeah, I did. So my surgeon, part of that conversation was there aren't really prosthetics out there. Basically, below your knee is you just have to replace that ankle joint. You go above the knee, and then you got to replace the ankle joint and your knee, obviously. And the more joints that you're replacing, the tougher it gets. So at that point, really all that was out there was kind of a mechanical hip joint that you really had to do a pretty good pelvic thrust to kick that leg forward to get it to go. So it was kind of there's really not good options out there for prosthetics. But I'm a stubborn German and nope, I'm going to prove you wrong. So let's really look into this. And I actually came across the video of a guy who was golfing with a hip disarticulation. So he still had the half of his pelvis, but it's close enough. Really, the big difference is just you can sit down a little bit easier without tipping. So I was like, okay, let's look into, what exactly he has for a prosthetic. And I found out that there's actually a hip that Ottobock out of Germany has developed that has a little bit of kind of a rubber band feature within there and then some mini pneumatics. So it actually kind of helps start that swing forward. So it takes less effort to actually walk. So started that process. My physical therapist that I was actually seeing, because we'd still do physical therapy, was actually married to the guy who built my prosthetic. Kind of a good gig for her. She was their amputation specialist and kind of had some connections to the community.
Wow. That was a good
connection.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I ended up kind of talking to him. What are my goals, right? What do I want to do with it? And it was, I would like to get back to, I want to go hunt. I want to go fish. I want to be able to coach soccer for my daughter, whatever. So we actually ended up, there's a knee that Ottobock has that they designed in coordination with the military to actually help get soldiers back into active duty after having an amputation. So it's completely waterproof, salt water, fresh water, doesn't matter.
No kidding.
Dust proof, like it has a legit cover. It's very Iron Man-esque. So I got approved for that. Their brand new foot, everything. It's a 3-day process just for the socket alone because it actually comes up to the bottom of my rib cage. And it's like a corset. I mean, you Velcro or ratchet yourself in as tight as you can, and then you go from there. So 3 days, went through the process to get the test socket built for it and everything, and then waited a little bit, and I actually got the prosthetic and was to the point where I could walk with just one crutch. by the time I went up to go see my surgeon for one of my follow-ups, and he spent more time watching and actually recording me walking with just one crutch. And his statement was, I told you weren't going to walk again, and you proved me wrong.
Wow.
Nice.
So everything was going really good. We were ready to actually start walking without using any crutches. And I broke one of the ratchets on there, so I had to get that part replaced, which took me out of it for a little bit. And during that time frame, you know, being able to eat after chemo and surgery and everything, and then being apparently when you hit, you know, like the 29 to 30 range, your metabolism just stops. And I put on a little bit too much weight, so I don't fit into
the prosthetic anymore.
The bucket anymore. But I had that done when I was probably close to 175 pounds, which add on 30 pounds for a leg would put me at 200 pounds. But now with the added muscle, my wife argues with me on that all the time. We'll leave it at the added muscle. I'm up to closer to 200 pounds now.
Without your leg.
Without my leg. So I would need, at this point, I either need to lose a ton of weight or just get another socket built. But it's a 3-day process, and I'm just not ready to go through that quite yet.
It seems odd, though, that because what was your normal weight before cancer?
Yeah, I mean, it was about 200 pounds. I'd actually just been doing a weight loss challenge, which oddly enough, I didn't win. I should have, as quick as I was losing weight. But about 200 pounds was kind of that's where I want to be.
And so, so doing it when you're 170 was reasonable, because without the leg, it would, even though it was only 20 pounds, but it is on average 30. Right. I guess I was wondering, why did they do it when you were so thin?
I mean, I was ready to do it. I wanted to get going as quick as possible. But there wasn't, you know, to everybody's credit, I got asked multiple times, is this the weight you're planning on staying at? And at that point, yeah, absolutely. That's where I plan to stay. It just didn't quite happen. Well,
and it may not be just 29-30 kind of thing, as much as like all the drugs that your body has been on can really, really mess up your metabolism, you know? So give yourself a break, you know, it's not that bad.
No.
Oh my gosh.
It's like the perfect situation to like want to gain weight too. Cause when you're on chemo, I'm sure you lost a whole bunch of it beforehand and everything.
Yeah, that very first cycle, I ended up not eating for roughly 4 or 5 days. They were actually ready to give me a feeding tube just because it had been that long. And I was down to 136 pounds.
Wow.
That was the lowest point that I was at.
And we have pictures of that too. And we didn't even recognize you on your Instagram. We're like, oh, we have the wrong site or whatever, the wrong address, because you were half your size, it seems.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How tall are you?
I'm 6'3" or 6'2", depending on who you ask.
And you were 136 pounds. Yeah. And let me just say to your wife, I think you must have a lot of muscle, especially upper body muscle, in order to be hoisting yourself all over the place.
Well, I'm sure you do, yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, even just from being in a wheelchair when I still had my leg, I mean, that's tough to wheel yourself around all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I have far more upper body strength now than I ever have prior.
Right.
And even, you know, at home, it's not always the easiest or most fun to stand up with your crutches, hop a couple feet, sit back down. So I'll just scoot myself around on the floor.
Like a monkey?
It's easier to do that sometimes.
With using your arms, and where's your leg? In front of you or behind you?
I just tuck it up or leave it straight out. I mean, whatever is comfortable for the situation.
Cool. See, me being a fitness person, I'm like, whoa, I'm going to try that.
I always tell people, if you really want to try something, try to, you know, get crutches, stand on one leg and try to load the dishwasher, try to do your laundry, whatever the case may be. Even using crutches, just hop around, try to go walk around the block on one leg. And it's not an easy thing to do. So my leg itself has gotten a lot bigger just from
huge.
Now it's supporting the full 200 pounds instead of splitting it.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm sure it's much more muscular. Yeah, I rolled my ankle when I was like 13 or something, and that was my one experience of having crutches around middle school, you know, and it was hard. And I mean, obviously I was 13 years old, so it's not like I had a lot of strength at that time, but it was tough. I mean, I can't I fortunately was able to go back to normal after 2 weeks or something like that. It's not like years or lifetime or, stuff like that. Doesn't.
Right.
It was lucky.
Well, and those standard crutches are not good. They're not comfortable. They are not.
They're terrible.
They're not made for use more than a couple days, to be honest. So
I see you have crutches in back. You have them the forearm kind.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So I've got forearm crutches. These are actually kind of fun. So this is actually a shock absorber. So you can actually, as you walk, it depresses and absorbs some of the shock. And then this is all steel, aluminum, all that kind of stuff. So it won't go away. But then the crutch tips are actually special crutch tips. And they've got a gel pad in here that absorbs some shock and everything.
Probably a good grip too.
So these are like the Lamborghini of crutches. But
yeah, I had more of a Toyota for mine.
Or a Ford or something.
Yeah, like a early 2000s Ford.
Right.
When you say absorbs the shock, so that makes it easier on your arms, like you're not getting jammed up all the time, basically.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's easier on your wrists, on your hands, on your elbows, your shoulders. I mean, just that entire system has to absorb the shock. So having at least some of it dampened through the actual crutch makes a huge difference, because it's not like, at this point, I don't anticipate them designing a leg that allows me to walk effortlessly. So crutches are just always going to be a thing.
Okay, got it.
So the longer I can keep from, putting any extra strain on things, the better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's an interesting point, because you never know. You're only 30. There could be a lot of changes in the next decades, in terms of your leg and your hip and your pelvis.
Right. I mean, so kind of the fun part on the arm side, the arm amputation side, there really hasn't. I mean, that's up until recently, it's pretty much just been more of an aesthetic thing if you got a prosthetic, because I want to look like I have a second arm. But they're actually able to now take, and they can put an arm on and actually implant things into certain muscle groups, depending on what muscles you have. And that then sends the signal through the arm to the fingers, whatever. So you can flex a certain muscle and it'll grab a cup.
Oh my gosh.
You can flex, so
Wow.
you can do different things like that. So, I mean, yeah, being 30 in 30 years, I mean, you look back 30 years ago and where technology was with this kind of stuff. I mean, we're still talking legitimate wooden peg legs.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so, there's always the possibility that they could implant something into some muscles down my back, whatever. And I just learned to flex certain things and it kicks the leg out and I can walk effortlessly. I don't anticipate growing any legs. I was hoping that'd be a side effect of the COVID vaccine.
Oh, the COVID.
When I got that,
the
but
COVID vaccine.
unfortunately, no leg grown.
Yeah, did you get your COVID vaccine already?
I did. Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Both of them, or
so? Yeah.
you're
Yep.
fully vaccinated.
And no legs, huh? I was really.
I know that's
I was hoping for another leg for you, honestly.
Yeah,
right.
For all of us.
Right. Of all the side effects that are possible, that it seemed like they had everything listed. So I thought, well, maybe we can grow a leg out of it, but
yeah.
It's not too long.
I'd really like to spend some time talking about phantom pain. We didn't talk about that as much last week when we were just chatting, but it seems like a really fascinating topic in terms of how the brain operates.
Yeah.
So what is it, and how does yours feel?
Yeah. So phantom pain, it's a little bit misleading. It is not phantom. It is truly there, right? It's not just in your head. But ultimately, if you were to stub your toe and how that would feel to you, I can feel exactly where like my toe is at in space. I can feel where everything is. And so phantom pain, right away when I first had the amputation, it actually felt like somebody had a blowtorch and they were holding a blowtorch to the bottom of my foot 24/7. I mean, just constantly holding a blowtorch. And then somebody was slicing a knife down my Achilles.
Oh.
And that's kind of that initial feeling after I got the epidural out with all the pain meds. That was the initial feeling.
And that softened over time, or like how did it soften? Was it from painkillers or was it just from time?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's transitioned. It's gone through different phases.
Sure.
we tried several different medications and everything, but it went from that pain to, when your foot falls asleep and it first starts waking up and that constant pins and needles. That's kind of what it transitioned to at one point. And then it's gotten to kind of where it's been. And it's stayed, it hasn't gone away for me. There's really no good statistics on percentages or anything like that. But for a lot of people, it goes away and it'll flare up. The weather changes. Here comes a front. I'm 80 years old. I can tell you when the weather's going to change without needing a weatherman anymore. But it's there, and it'll feel tight. I'll get little spasms in my foot, things like that.
Do you feel it right now?
So right now, on the 1 to 10 scale for pain, I'm probably at a 2, just because I'm focused on something else. We're talking, we're doing stuff.
Okay.
If I'm just sitting there and, mindlessly watching TV, or just on bad days, if I eat a lot of sugar, that will crank it up very fast. I think the inflammation
that makes sense.
My thought process on that one. But it'll ratchet up and it'll feel sometimes like somebody stabs me, the old thing where you stick your knuckle out and you smack somebody on the leg to like deaden their leg. It'll do that. I'll get random just spasms in different areas. But usually it's the outside of my foot and kind of the top of my foot. It's just like somebody's, kind of doing this, just wringing my foot, and that's pretty constant.
And how does that work? Like it's because the nerve that was traveling down there is still there, and then it just because it's no longer there, it doesn't know what to do, or like how does it actually work?
Right. Yeah. So it's actually I can push and like rub on different areas of my nub, if you want to call it that, where the everything is stopped, and I can actually feel like I'm touching my pinky toe, or I can feel like I'm rubbing my thigh by rubbing in one spot, because the nerves are still there. So they cut them off and they're there. So they're searching for something. And if anybody is old enough to remember the old school TV where you had to do the auto scan and you got the channel that didn't actually have a channel, it was just the blizzard that that's basically what's getting sent back to your brain. And the brain has no way to go, oh, I know what that is. So it's going to be a tickle. It's going to be whatever, right? Like I'd rather have a tickle, I think, all the time. That would be maybe annoying at some point, but more pleasant because it doesn't have anything. The brain's automatic response is this hurts, run, right? It's that fight or flight mentality of I got to stay alive. Well, this must hurt because I don't know what this is. So that's how it interprets that just nothing coming back.
So is there a way to, so you said you can feel certain parts on where the amputation was. Is there a way to massage it out, or is that not possible?
Yeah, it'll take some of it away for me, just because it gives the brain, at that point, now my brain has a little bit of something. So I've actually recently started using a TENS unit as well, and I'll put that on certain points where that feeling kind of originates from, and then that just sends that electric pulse through there.
Okay.
And that definitely helps. Again, it gives the brain something at least to focus on. But medications, some people will take opiates. My surgeon has flat out said it doesn't do anything. I'm not going to prescribe it. And obviously the era that we're in right now makes a role, or plays a role. I was on oxy everything pretty much from May 25th for quite a while, just because of how painful everything was.
Especially in the beginning,
But then after the amputation, okay, this is a nerve thing. It's not anything that's going to do anything with. So there's nothing with that. We tried Lyrica. We tried gabapentin. So those are two kind of nerve pain meds that they'll give folks. I maxed out the doses.
My dad actually had frostbite in his hands and feet, and he had an addiction to it, so that was another issue. But he was prescribed those for his nerve damage, nerve pain in his feet and in his hands. So it's probably similar.
Ironically enough, you mentioned the addiction side of things. Gabapentin.
We're very familiar,
Yes, that's become the new oxy.
Oh.
I know.
I'm pointing at the dog.
I saw a little shadow.
Doggy.
Yeah, I remember my dad had a problem with gabapentin. That was one of the things that he got from. Well, he was really bad. He would go to multiple doctors, multiple pharmacies, and gabapentin came up a lot. But I think it's replaced oxy a little bit.
Yeah, and it really has, because it's not as well known, if you will, for being addictive, and it's fairly readily given out. So yeah, it's kind of replaced that, at least at the last that I'd heard.
Okay.
But Lyrica didn't really have a major side effects or anything for me. It just didn't do anything for the pain. So I was like, well, it's not worth taking anymore. The gabapentin, when I got to the max dose on that, it definitely kind of, was more tired, a little bit more just kind of lethargic on it. And again, didn't help the pain. So,
What's
all right,
the point?
we'll
Yeah.
quit that. And then, finally got to the point. So South Dakota, up until recently, CBD oil, just CBD oil itself was actually illegal.
Oh.
So we couldn't even possess that. There was actually somebody that went through the airport at one point and got picked up and arrested because they had CBD oil.
Oh my gosh.
In their bag.
And it's not even like the full, weed,
Right. Yeah, it's super mild.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that was actually illegal. But it's like, nope. You read online, and there's people that talk about how that kind of stuff can help. So I'm like, all right, well, let's order some CBD oil, and it definitely takes the edge off. The other thing that some folks find helpful is mirror therapy. So we tried that when I was in the hospital. It just didn't register with me. But you take a mirror and you position it so that it looks like your missing limb, whatever, is still there. And it kind of helps train your brain that, hey, it's there.
Interesting.
And so like your legs, those nerves end up meeting kind of in one point in your back. So potentially you can actually train your brain to see your right leg, in my case, in that mirror, but know that it's still there.
So would that help with the little irks and stuff?
So for some people, it's super successful and it gets rid of their phantom pain. For me, it just didn't do anything. So I haven't continued on with that. But the CBD oil took at least the edge off enough to where I wasn't constantly writhing in pain. Night was the worst. Trying to fall asleep at night. I mean, I could take a Unisom and not even fall asleep on a Unisom because it just hurt that much. And there's still days where it kicks in. And
I mean, you said that you can feel bugs biting you and you go to slap the bug and there's nothing there.
Yeah, I've done that one before. I had a fly in my office one day just flying around, and all of a sudden I felt like he was on my left leg, and I'm busy working, doing stuff. So I just instinctively went to go swat the fly away and found the chair instead of a leg. But you can feel 100% like everything is still there and normal.
And you mentioned you can't wiggle your toes in your brain, meaning
like
right.
the foot that you still have?
Sorry.
The
foot that's not there anymore.
So
Okay.
are there types of phantom pain where you can command your foot to move a little bit
Yes. So there's phantom pain and there's phantom sensation. So phantom pain is the actual part where it hurts. The phantom sensation is just, I can tell you where my entire leg is in space.
Okay.
So you can have that phantom sensation, but not have any phantom pain, just from how that works. And then for the vast majority of people, they can move that limb. So if you have your arm amputated, your leg, whatever, you can wiggle your toes, feel like you're wiggling your toes. And that is something a lot of people say helps their phantom pain
Exactly.
is move the limb, wiggle your toes, do something like that. Well, mine is just stuck. It's frozen basically in the same position it was always at when I'd walk around for how long, because I couldn't put weight on it. I had it lifted up, and that's kind of the position that it's always been stuck in.
So when you're walking on one leg, your other leg is just up.
Yeah.
In your
brain.
Like
if I stop at a water fountain to get a drink and I bend over and somebody walks right behind me, I feel like they're going to hit my leg and knock me over because it feels like it's pointing back behind me, bent kind of at like a 60-degree angle at my knee, pointed back. And it feels like somebody's going to hit my leg.
So when someone walks through or something goes through where you think your leg is, do you feel that, like the sensation of something hitting your leg, or is it not quite that in depth?
Not quite like that for me, at least.
Okay.
Now granted, it's entirely possible, like if you were to catch me off guard and like throw a ball at that area, I might feel like I feel it type of a thing. Just that instinct reaction, no time to think type of a situation. But no, I mean, my dog does it all the time. He'll run up the stairs, up underneath my leg. Kids, you go somewhere and kids, once they get used to it, they'll walk right underneath your leg and everything. I mean, it doesn't feel weird or anything like
it's
that.
just you anticipate when when they're
anticipate,
coming
yeah.
that, they're going to hit my leg, but then
they
you
don't.
realize
Yeah.
that they don't. Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
I mean, it's interesting how the human body's like connected like that. Like even I got a massage this morning before we came on air, and I was thinking how she was massaging, somewhere in my shoulder, and I felt it down in my pinky, And I feel like it's the
Right.
same with you and your phantom pain. Like you can just everything's connected, and you in ways that you don't expect,
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I can remember when I got my tattoos on my back, it'd feel like they were right on my spine or on my rib cage. And oh no, they're nowhere close. I mean, yeah, how the back and I mean, just how your body in general works is incredible.
Yeah.
And the brain I always look at the brain as it's smart enough to know what it is, but it isn't smart enough to figure itself out.
Exactly.
'Cause we
Good
still
point.
don't- the brain allow us to understand itself. So we kind of have to figure out how to unlock our own brain to fix some of these.
Yeah,
things.
because otherwise it just operates on instinct and doesn't. Yeah, you
Right.
can't rationalize with it because it's your brain, and you need your brain to rationalize your brain.
Oh gosh,
Right.
There's another Maryism.
that was complicated. My brain can't rationalize what you just said, to be honest.
Speaking of tattoos, though, show the viewers your
Yeah.
tattoo you got since since the surgery.
Yep. So this
Very cool.
is actually a full. This is my prosthetic minus the bucket
Okay.
that sits up in this area. So the full foot, that's kind of what the leg looks like. And then we did yellow cancer ribbon, all tattered, torn, things like that. Because you make it through the journey of cancer.
Nice.
That shouldn't say make it through. You're through some of the parts that really do most visible damage.
that
Yeah.
tattered you up. Yeah.
Right. Cancer that never ends. It's always there forever. But yeah, and it's kind of one of those things. My daughter is deathly afraid of my prosthetic when it's not on. So if it's just sitting there, it scares her. She won't come into the bedroom. If she knows that the closet door is open, she will not go into the bedroom
Wow.
because it's in there. So that, okay, let's get this, maybe try to kind of help soften cartoon type
Okay.
Yeah.
thing for
Yeah.
it and bring it out. And another thing that gets asked a lot, being a male, my age range, missing a limb, is what branch of service were you in? So something like this, hopefully with a cancer ribbon, kind of helps deflect some of those types of
I didn't
questions.
even think about that. Yeah,
Wow.
that
They
it looks like you were
automatically go
like
there.
overseas or something. Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Goodness. So let's talk about where you're at now. And because you have done some amazing things since February 15th of 2019.
Yeah.
Got it. You've done some physical goals. You've done some speaking and, inspirational, motivational kind of stuff. So what all have you done since you've gotten better?
Yeah. I mean, so right away, in May of that same year, so May of 2019, so 2 months after, or 3 months after I had the surgery, I actually did a 1.5-mile walk for a cancer walk in town. One of our hospitals puts it on. So 3 months after that surgery, I walked 1.5 miles.
On one leg or with your prosthetic?
No prosthetic at that point. So that
Okay.
was crutching 1.5 miles
Wow.
up and down the hills and the streets and stuff like that.
Wow.
So I've done that. I fell a few times pretty quickly just because you forget that you don't have a leg. And you try to do something stupid that you probably shouldn't even do with 2 legs, like reach for a cat up on their cat tree with a whole bunch of your kids' toys underneath you. And then you just fall because balance and everything else.
Okay.
And that was one thing that, not being afraid to fall and falling has helped me get to the points that I'm at. But so there's a gal that I followed on Facebook pretty much from the start.
Mm-hmm.
And she actually lost her leg because of being in the military. So she lost it in Afghanistan, and she climbed Mount Everest. So she's an above knee. So she actually still has part of her, I guess, leg, her femur.
Oh.
but she climbed Everest, and I figured, all right, if she can climb Everest, I can climb the stairs at home.
Yeah.
So I followed her kind of through all that stuff, and her foundation, the Kirstie Ennis Foundation, she put out a deal that, hey, rock climbing, if there's any amputees that are interested, you guys can apply. And I thought, well, there's no way I'd get selected, because who can climb with one leg? You have to have 3 points of contact all the time. So I was like, I'll throw it in, whatever. And I actually got chosen. So I was one of 5 of us amputees from across the U.S. So went out to Colorado this last summer and was actually able to learn how to rock climb.
That's cool.
Wow, we have a great picture of you learning, and also of you at the top with Kirstie. Is that her name? Or
Yep, Kirstie. Yep.
Yeah, that's her in that picture, right? That
is her. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So wow, what a feat, huh?
So are you like, I mean, that's amazing. I rock climbed before. I'm not what I would call very advanced. But would you think that you can do some of the harder stuff, or is it still like you're working your way up to that point?
Yeah, I mean, I'm 100% still working my way up. So she actually paid for and sent us home with all the gear. So I have everything other than the ropes. But around Sioux Falls, we've got a couple areas that we can actually rock climb outside.
Oh, I'm sure.
So I've been able to go to the gym, our climbing gym, that just opened recently a couple of times. But then this summer, I'll get out and actually outdoor rock climb. I enjoy the outdoor far more than inside, but it's still pretty basic things for me. And then we did try an ascender. So it's a piece that actually clips onto the rope that kind of helps pull you up. Just because there were some times where I just couldn't make the move that I needed to without that. So, all right, how do we adapt? What do we change so that I can at least still get up there? And that was kind of the easiest way. So yeah, I'm working my way up. But as I get more physically fit too, just in general, that's going to help progress to those higher level
and you
ones.
like it.
And that's such a great hobby.
Good. Yeah.
I've loved every time I've gone rock climbing. Yeah. Like I said, I'm not that good
And
at
I'm
it yet.
terrified of heights.
Really?
Oh, you are?
I am terrified of heights. So I thought there's no way this is going to go well. But I think it's kind of that sense of accomplishment when you get out there, like, yep, I can do this type of a thing. So it hasn't actually scared me in the least bit.
Wow.
To go up there. But,
well, I actually was wondering about this with your lung, because I know that you got a piece of it cut out, right? Does that affect exercise at all?
No.
Not even a little bit?
No, not at all. Was it the day after my surgery? I forget what exactly the time frame was, but those the spirometers that you blow into when you're in the hospital.
Right. Yeah.
My wife is a nurse, so she was on me
24/7
on make sure you're doing this.
Oh my God.
Yep.
That's convenient. Yeah.
Kind of a perfect. Yeah. She was actually she took out the staples from my amputation, so we didn't have to go back up to the cities.
Yeah.
She took the staples out. She could have done the stitches, but they were a different style than what she was used to. So somebody else did it.
But she could understand so much of this, right?
Right.
And had doctors she could talk to, and nice.
Right. Yeah. And my mom actually works in the cancer industry. What? She's a radiologic technician, I think.
Oh my gosh.
Forget exactly what she did. So, yeah.
Wow.
At least had some connections, and they had some experience with it, which at times made it worse.
I was going to say that could backfire too.
Right. It can be good and a bad thing. Yeah. So it, kind of one of those, we just need to figure it out and make it work.
Cool.
So besides the physical goals, you also you did some speaking or some writing? I forgot.
Yeah. COVID kind of ruined a little bit the speaking side of things. So there was actually a cancer event
COVID
that was put on.
Okay.
Yeah, COVID did. Yep. Last October, and that has now been, of course, delayed.
Okay.
Just with everything going on. But I was going to be kind of talking about the power of positivity and just how much of a role that can play in healing and getting through things. But then I've also, I've toyed and I started writing a book. It's just, there's a lot more that goes into that than I expected. I know you guys know that as well.
It takes some time. Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of started that, but a lot of Facebook and Instagram. I've had somebody who has a connection to a family member that their father got diagnosed with cancer, and just being able to read some of the side effects and the chemo side effects, things that I had gone through, some of that kind of stuff really helped them kind of understand and answered some of their questions. And there's a gal in Ohio and then a gal in California, and another one in Florida now. So the four of us have kind of done different things together. We've done like a Halloween costume to see who had the best Halloween costume. And we did who can carry the most groceries into the house from the car.
Oh my gosh.
Right. The most bags of groceries using whatever assistive devices we wanted. And just through that kind of stuff. I mean, we've had people that have reached out who, my daughter had the same level of amputation and she's 13 and she loves you guys. And she knows now that she can do more stuff. And so kind of being able to, show that, there's still basic normal life things that you can do because it's so I don't want to go climb Everest. That's not my goal.
Yeah.
Kirsty can keep Everest and all of those.
Okay,
Yeah.
That's what, really helps her show everything. I want to be able to show, the mom, the dad, the young adult who's going through that kind of stuff. Like, hey, there is still life after cancer. There's life during cancer with amputation. And it's just, how do you adjust things to make it work? I've been really a lot on Facebook, and then infertility, because of my chemo. I was unable to have any of my own kids after Adeline. And that hasn't ever returned for me. So kind of around that side of things, because again, there's just not a lot of information for hip level amputees. There's not a ton of information for somebody in their 20s that has cancer, and then males that have infertility. It's just all a bunch of stuff nobody wants to talk about.
Yeah.
Or there's not enough people to talk about it.
But you're completely willing to talk about it if it helps, right?
Yeah.
And you've faced like so many different things that even if they can't relate to all of it, they can probably pick out pieces of it where they're like, yeah, this I can relate to this. This makes sense. This is helping me, And
Right.
even though it's a rare condition of what you had, it's probably you're probably not the last person ever to get it,
Right. And that's been the craziest thing. So at the time, there's less than 130 cases in medical literature of this type of cancer.
How many?
So
Less than
130.
Oh my
It was
gosh.
129 is what I could count. We actually, so between myself and then some of the nurses, they actually were able to go through their library and pull studies that mentioned that PMHE that I wasn't able to access. Most of them I could access just through Google searches and finding the right places to go. But they pulled the rest of them. And through counting, 129 was the most that I had counted, through all the studies that had ever been done.
Ever.
So there were more. I mean, that's definitely not all there was, but
That's all that's
actual documented cases, 130.
Wow, that's just nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I've now had 3 actually people that have now reached out saying, hey, I just got diagnosed with this, or my son just got diagnosed with this. What can you tell me about it?
Wow.
Amazing.
And
So-
it's like you never hear of something, and then when it's put across your awareness, all of a sudden you hear more about
Right.
it. You're like, wait, what? But it kind of gets in.
Yep.
That's your world now, so.
Right. And using hashtags on Instagram, I mean, social media hashtags, that's where I end up getting found, just by hashtagging those things, because there isn't anybody else talking about these. I mean, when I had it and I got my diagnosis and I tried doing searches on Twitter and Instagram and everything, there's nothing that comes up for any of it. So, all right,
if
let's
you
try
can
to
do
get some
that alone,
awareness.
that's huge
Right.
for people.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And speaking of life going on afterwards, you have a 1-month-old son, right?
Yeah. Yep. So we went through the process and did a IUI, and first time, kind of, I think that was all right, you've been through enough. We'll let this go smoothly. And healthy pregnancy, mom, baby, everybody doing good after surgery or after birth. And
Oliver.
yep. Oliver Lee. Yep.
So Adeline and Oliver, isn't that cute?
Which is really cute names, yeah.
What's your dog's name over there?
So that's Bentley.
Bentley.
He's a 90-pound black lab. We drove all the way out to Kemmerer, Wyoming from Sioux Falls in a weekend to pick him up. And that was
Aw.
post amputation. So we drove out there
There's
without it.
another picture of you with him as a puppy, snuggling up with Adeline. And
Yep.
did Christy, my friend, your aunt, say correctly that you were thinking of making it a service dog or a therapy dog or
Therapy dog.
Okay.
Yep. So he's still a little too hyper. He's still very
young?
puppy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as I'm able to work with him more and kind of get him a little bit better, I want to make him a therapy dog.
Nice.
Get him certified for that. So go into the hospitals, because I was able to actually meet with a therapy dog up there a couple times. And it's kind of that, it's something, it takes your brain off of everything else. Animals have kind of a way of doing that for you.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, to be able to go into, the cancer wards, the regular hospital, nursing homes, all kinds of stuff.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
So that's the long-term goal with him.
Bentley. Aw.
Yeah, that's nice.
And then we have 2 cats as well, and I'm surprised they haven't made a trip along the ledge up here.
Thank
yet.
you. We love cats. I have 5. 5.
Okay.
I just have 1. But at the vet, it counts as Mary's still, too. So
6.
So she's registered as 6 cats at the vet.
Yeah, I love cats, but I have a dog, too. So I love animals. But
yeah, I love them both.
Yes.
Anyway, my gosh. So I guess shockingly, is that all that you have to say? What a simple story. But I would, in order to kind of sum it up for everybody and for me, I mean, do you have bitter moments? Did you have bitter moments? Do you have like why me moments? Where are you at right now? Where were you at? I mean, how do you keep your spirit up?
Yeah, I mean, that's all of them. They still, they come and go. I think really when I first started the chemo side of things, I'm young. I'm not supposed to be sitting in here with all of these, sorry to word it this way, but I'm not supposed to be in here with these old folks getting their chemo. Like, I'm half, potentially plus of everybody's age here, right? And then they give you the pity look because I'm 70 years old, and then they look at you, you're young and you've got a young family, and they give you a pity look. And so that would make me bitter. I would get bitter just seeing them walk in when I would be laying there and they could walk in and out and I couldn't go. I mean, I had to be in the wheelchair, right? I couldn't just get up and walk. Like, yeah, you lost your hair. I lost mine. You can put a cover. I can put a cover, but at least you can walk in and out.
Yeah.
So, that definitely, you could still work through it. I can't work through it. And so there's a lot of those moments, the amputation side of things. And this sounds horrible, the way that this gets worded, but you just lost below your knee. You can still run. You have unlimited potential when it comes to prosthetics and feet, and you can wear the cool curved prosthetics that let you run competitively, even and above the knee, right? You still have all kinds of things that you can do. I can't do all that kind of stuff. So there still definitely are those moments.
Yeah, of course.
But then, okay, I lived through mine, right? So I can't really be too upset. I can. It's all fair. It's all 100% legitimate emotions to go through, and that's part of that process. And it's a never-ending process. But, I lived through it. There was a gentleman that was one of my roommates. Actually, when I was on the cancer side in Minneapolis, they still had the double rooms. So the little, sheet that divides you. So that's always fun when the new roommate comes in at 3 a.m. or somebody's up sick because of their chemo. So it is not the most fun. But, he was having surgery because he had a ton of stuff on his lungs, his heart, his aorta, stuff like that. So, okay, he could walk in and out, but I had a better prognosis than he did. I mean, the amputation side of things. Yeah, I have that, but I can afford to have my Lamborghini crutches. A lot of people can't,
Sure.
I have 2 legs. Some folks don't have any legs. They lose everything. They've got arms that are lost, whatever. And my support system, I have a support system that maybe a lot of people don't have. My insurance has been amazing. It's probably over $1.5 million total charges for everything. And we've only ever had to pay for out-of-pocket stuff, or like out-of-pocket max every year for it. There's no lifetime limited on mine.
Wow.
So my prosthetic, that was like
really
a $100,000 charge to insurance. The whole thing was covered. Right. So
you can see some things that you're like grateful for.
Right. I have those moments where, this sucks. This is, if I could go back, and I will 100% maintain, I don't understand anybody who in these types of situations says, if I could go back and change it, I wouldn't.
Ooh.
Because I 100% of the time would. If you came to me and said, here, you can go back and you can figure, whatever, you can see it early enough where you don't lose your leg and you just go on and live a normal life. Yep. Sounds good. Sign me up. I'll do it. obviously I can't. And so then it's all right, you make the most of the situation. And I mean, I get front row parking everywhere that I go. So
little added perk,
wintertime,
I guess,
right. Yeah. Hunting, I have a special license that actually allows me to hunt from like an ATV or something like that. So there's still, silver linings to find all of it. Go to baseball games, I can sit right down on the field. So go to Twins games in Minneapolis. They actually have a section that's like, it's almost like a dugout, but you could reach over. They've got netting all the way now, but you could have reached over and actually touched the field right there.
Oh, wow.
And that's for handicap accessible seating. So myself and my wife, if we go, we can go sit right there, right on the field,
That's
basically.
Wonderful.
So there's all kinds of things. I got my vaccine, my COVID vaccine, because I'm still being scanned every, 6 months now. So I'm still in that active stage. So without that, I would have been waiting longer. Now we have a fully vaccinated house. I mean, like I said, I'll always have those days.
Yeah.
They're always going to be there. But understanding that, yes, it's okay to feel that way. And then, okay, move on. What can I do? And it, even just as something as simple as, I had to change the little flapper in the toilet. Well, how do I sit down to do that properly? Because now I don't have a leg sitting there. So I didn't actually have to straddle the back of the toilet. I just sat down and I had nothing blocking me. So I had full access to the tank. I mean, it's finding those little things of, all right, this did get easier. Or how do I adapt? Right. How do I adapt, to still be able to do this? I'm going to be starting CrossFit in April.
Cool.
If you would have told me with 2 legs 5 years ago that you'd do CrossFit, I would have said you're crazy. And then if you'd have said on 1 leg, I would have really, there's no way.
Okay.
But it's adapting. It's still, everything is possible. You can still do everything.
Wow.
It's just different how you have to do it. And that's
a really good
where
message.
I try to focus
You
on.
can still do everything. It's just different.
Yeah.
Wow. That might be a good way to wrap it up, because that's
I
a
think
wonderful
so.
slogan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, this is going to help so many people. Just resilience is what we all need to realize is within us, and sometimes it needs to be drawn out in the most horrific,
Dire
ways,
situations. Yeah.
but it's there, and we can access it, and we can learn and grow from other people that have accessed it, and don't give up, right? Yeah.
Right. Just keep swimming, to quote Dory. Just keep swimming.
I think you understand that.
Mary doesn't get any pop culture references. I don't know if you do this, but I understand.
Disney?
I know nothing Disney.
I understand.
So I don't. He's like, she says she's gonna lock me in for a week and make me watch Disney movies with her.
At least some of the basics. I mean, come on.
I mean, we watched Finding Nemo in my German class in high school in German to have some of that German immersion stuff.
I actually read, similar. I read Harry Potter in Spanish to learn Spanish more.
Whoa!
Wow.
That's incredible.
I only read the first one. I couldn't do the rest of them.
But one is enough.
And it was back and forth between a the book and then a dictionary book and then a dictionary book. So it wasn't real reading, but it did help. And it was a book that I already knew, obviously, so it makes sense to do it that way. That's how you learn.
Yeah.
All right, but
Disney Plus, get yourself a subscription.
Oh shoot, I gotta do it now.
$6.99 a month is not really gonna break your bank.
You're like the 45th person that said that since we started the podcast.
At the very least, Disney. All the other stuff we can work on, but Disney.
And at least Dory. I mean, if Dory keeps swimming, I need to know who that is.
That's Ellen DeGeneres.
What?
That's the voice. Yeah. Okay. See what I mean? She knows nothing.
Yeah.
She's the voice actor for it, and she I think she was probably a producer on that, right? Or something like that.
I'm not sure. I can quote most of these movies by heart because we've watched them so many times.
With Adeline.
How was Frozen? You watch that one a lot? Moana?
I actually kind of liked Frozen. Moana's good.
I love Frozen. But I know that kids
Inside
watch
Out
it so much.
is hilarious.
Inside Out.
Inside Out's a good one, yeah.
Inside Out's hilarious.
I do like that one.
We were on Soul when that first came out. We had a pretty long Soul.
I haven't seen that one yet. That's
Soul
relatively new, right?
Yeah. Yep. That just came out last couple of months here.
Okay.
I think you're speaking Spanish or German.
That's basic. This is what I get all the time. We've been doing this for a year and a half, and every reference that I think is hilarious, I get this reaction.
I don't even know Snow White.
Not no Snow White.
I mean, I know of Snow White, but I don't know the story. Anyway.
Anyways.
I mean, they're yeah, we can talk forever about that.
Yeah.
That's another episode on its own.
Right, yeah, just the analysis of Disney. But yes, I agree with what Mary was saying before that this is going to really affect a lot of people that have gone through a lot of similar stuff, maybe not entirely the exact same thing, but portions of it I think they'll be able to relate and hopefully grow from. And I really enjoyed talking with you about this. This has been really fascinating. I mean, this is a whole new world that I obviously have some familiarity with cancer, but not to this extent. And it's, I think it's really informational and inspiring too.
Let's stay in touch.
Absolutely. Yeah. I appreciate you guys letting me come on. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of been the goal from the start when I came to terms was let's help as many people as we can.
Let's help. So, and after all, I'm your aunt because Christy's my sister.
And Christy's my aunt.
Right.
So you're cousins.
Cousins. And yeah.
So
my long lost cousin.
Oh, there he is, finally.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Matt Beck.
Yes.
And we will have all the links and pictures and everything posted. The first, definitely a two-parter. It'll be this Thursday. Well, it'll be when they're listening to it. But anyway, it's definitely a two-parter.
Yes.
We've also gone through that. All right, Matt, thank you so much. Keep up the voice because you're an inspiration to everyone and more going forward, I'm sure. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. This week's episode of No More Secrets. If you liked what you saw, subscribe below.
And be sure to check out our website, thealbrechtauthors.com, where you can also purchase a copy of our book, Broken Neck. You better f***ing do it.
You can cut that